Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy to be here on Media Day. My name is Chris King. I'm an independent filmmaker. I live in Roseville. This is my wife, Heather King. She is the brains of the outfit. So thank you for being here today, and we look forward to imparting some of our knowledge that we have gleaned over the last 15 years of making our independent films. And before we get into that, though, I'm going to go ahead and play what's called a demo reel. Who knows what a demo reel is? Right, cool. It's something that you put together to show other people what you have done in the past, whether it's cinematography or directing or producing. So this is my demo reel that I actually just coincidentally finally put together a few weeks ago. I had been meaning to do it for years. So. Oh, that's right. And I also work at KCRA3 as a commercial producer, director, editor, and graphics person myself too. So, yeah. So this is only just about 2.5 minutes long. All right. Have a seat. Just want to make sure this doesn't move on to something else. Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's pretty much what my wife and I have accumulated over the last 15 years of making our independent films and the television work, the commercials that I make at KCRA3. But we're here about independent film here today. So that's what we'll be talking about. And independent film, as many of you might already know, is just so different from studio filmmaking. It's just a whole different world of responsibilities because everything's on you rather than having a massive army of people to help you like studios have, and of course the budget that they have. My background here is I went to film school at Cal State Long Beach, and I have been studying pretty much screenwriting and the whole screenplay structure and format and theory of film for about 25 years. But before that, I had no background whatsoever. Film just seemed like such a completely foreign thing that only the wealthy people, the connected people in the world are able to do. And I grew up in Iowa, so Hollywood and the whole filmmaking thing was so foreign to my ears and to my experiences. So it was just so wonderful to finally go through film school. Side note, you don't need to go through film school to be a filmmaker, but to come back. But anyway, so I've studied a lot of screenwriting, which has helped immensely. And been working in television and making commercials for like the last 15 years also. So that has helped as well. Story is everything. Story to me, and I'm sure Heather would agree, is first and foremost the most important thing. If you don't have a story, you don't have anything to film. And when it comes to independent filmmaking, some sort of broad general brushstrokes I'll make right now, and we'll revisit them here in a few minutes. Some of the broad brushstrokes of independent filmmaking and what it entails encompasses, of course, coming up with a story idea, whether it's a feature-length film, an hour and a half, 2-hour-long film, or a short film, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, whatever. There's writing the screenplay. There's before that, learning how to structure a screenplay. And how many of you guys have actually seen like a screenplay and see how it looks on the page? Looks pretty funky, doesn't it? Looks pretty weird compared to novel writing or long-form writing. There's coming up with your actors. There's auditioning the actors. There's breaking down the script. There's literally going in your script line by line and what characters are involved. What are they wearing? What costumes do I need? What props do I need? A lot of minutia, a lot of details in doing that. There's getting your locations, your props, your costumes. There's making a shoot schedule so everyone knows where to be at what time, at what location. There's, of course, directing your actors, getting the kind of performance out of them that you like. Now, we do narrative films as opposed to documentary films. I love documentary films. It's so funny. Whenever we go to film festivals, I'd say 90% of everything I watch are documentaries. I love them. I'm just afraid to do them because they take a lot of time and you have to shoot a lot of footage. Just a whole different animal. There's getting all the cameras that you need, the lights that you need, sound. You want to have good sound. And then when you're done shooting, there's editing. Whether it's done by you or done by a friend or a colleague. There's getting the music for that. And then there's submitting to film festivals, if indeed you want to go that route of submitting to film festivals. Now today, there are 2 different routes you can go with filmmaking. You can do it with independent filmmaking. You can do it for the fun of it, get your friends together, have a good time, and just make anything. That's all cool and that's all fine and dandy, and go for it. Have fun with that. Excuse me, I'm clearing my throat a lot here. But I'm going to speak to you guys, we're going to speak to you guys today, though, as if you are, if this is all about serious filmmaking, even if it's serious filmmaking about making a drama or serious about making a comedy, as opposed to just doing it for the fun of it, if that makes sense. Yes, in terms of going to the film festival route, yeah. So Heather's going to, now that I've yapped a little bit here, wife Heather's going to tell you a little bit about her background and how I benefit so much by her inclusion in it.
Hi there, I'm Heather. The microphone on? Yep, there we go. Great, thank you. So my background, I was an avid reader growing up. So Chris grew up, like Captain Television was his nickname from his family. So he's always been a lover of the things that are on the screen. I always loved the things that were on the page. And so when Chris got involved, first started with screenwriting, not making the films, but just getting involved in screenwriting for the screenwriting competitions and things like that, it was pretty natural for me to jump in there and just do some copy editing, you know, checking for punctuation and spelling and things like that. And then I started getting more interested because I also have a psychology background. So I worked as a therapist for a number of years and just love how people work. And so as I'm reading his screenplays for punctuation and spelling, then I started saying, this character wouldn't say that. That's not here. We need to go deeper on this. Or this line isn't really quite what I know you're trying to say. So let's tweak this line a little bit. So by virtue of doing that, then I got pulled into this process here and really became, Chris always does the first draft, does all the research for the screenplays, and then I come in and we go through them line by line and really check out each line for the solid content. And then as Chris got more involved and we decided, okay, bucket list, have to make a film. So this was nearly 20 years ago now, got together and were naive enough to start off with a feature film. And so as he was learning how to do all these things that he just ran down the list, and we'll get into more details with that, then by virtue of marriage, I was involved in these too. So as he would learn a new skill, then I would kind of be learning alongside him of here's how we make independent films. So my learning has really been on the job as we go, and then when we're on the film sets, I'm right there on the film set as well. As he's directing films, I'm the one who's watching everything else that's happening on set to make sure that our people are well taken care of and watching the little details that he can't because he's directing. So that's been my role in this whole piece. So Chris is the primary, he's got the formal education on what we're doing here, and then I've got the on-the-job learning as we go.
And I like being out here with you guys, sitting in the chairs in front of you here, rather than being behind a lectern here. Hence, that's why we're sitting here, because we want to invite as many questions from you guys as possible too. We'll go through some information first, and then take some questions for you guys. And please ask questions, okay? Yes, we make a good team, Heather and I, and she's an amazing asset to our filmmaking because she's brutally honest with me. And that's one of the things about being a filmmaker is it's gonna be hard at first, you guys. It's gonna be hard to write your screenplays and then show them to people, whether it's your best friends, your parents, whoever. It's gonna be hard to show them that because you do want perspective on your scripts. You do want a trusted friend or two or parent to be able to read what you're writing and go, this right here, oh my gosh, chills, wonderful. This part right here, I wasn't really buying it. It just seemed a little forced or what have you. It's that kind of feedback that you really need to have as you're becoming a filmmaker and a student of film. And definitely, in order to become an independent filmmaker, you do need to become a student of film. And what I mean by that is, I think it's in every new filmmaker's best interest to learn as much as you possibly can about what does screenwriting structure format look like. How do you edit your film? I was forced into editing my first film, and it was the greatest accident that I think ever happened to me in my professional and hobby career. Anyway, so learning how to edit. Learning what producing means. I remember when I went through film school, the opening semester, I still didn't know what a producer meant. It was always that nebulous sort of unformed word, producer. What does that mean? And
we finally figured out the easiest way to explain it is the producer is the wedding planner. They're the person who just organizes everything. So they're tracking, who is where, have you gotten the right people, or have you given them the schedules? Have you communicated everything? Do they know what they're wearing? Is everybody fed? How do you keep everybody fed when you're on set? So it's just all those little details. It's nothing artsy. It's very practical. It's the nuts and bolts of running the family. It's like the mom of the film set.
That was a perfect analogy, and I hadn't heard of that or thought of it that way until you explained it several years ago, and it's perfect. And part of being an independent filmmaker is gathering people, equipment, places, locations, everything. So you need to be really sure of yourself, and part of being a filmmaker is asking for favors. From cameras to sound to anything, and we still do that. We've been doing this for 20 years now, and we still ask, because that's part of independent filmmaking. Studio filmmaking, you have millions of dollars to work with. Our independent filmmaking here in Roseville, Sacramento area, it's all about favors.
Yep. And part of what's really neat about Sacramento is that the community is really open to supporting independent film. When we made our first film, it was a feature, and it was down in LA, and they're so jaded. There's so many filmmakers there that nothing comes for free, and nobody is excited about film because everybody's making a film. I mean, when we were in LA, we had to pay $200 to use somebody's living room for 2 hours, and they had their dogs barking, and the kids are playing in the backyard, and it was just terrible circumstances to try and film in, and we had to pay $200 to even be in that living room. Whereas here in Sacramento, it's just been amazing. The community's so warm and open, and we say, hey, can we come shoot in the governor's mansion? And they're like, sure, come on in. So we have shot all over town, and Chris has become fearless on just calling and saying, hey, we're making a film. We'd like to come film. Now, granted, your first film, you're probably not going to get into the governor's mansion. You'll need a little track record to, have them trust you in some of the locations. But the community really has been very warm and open. So especially as students, if you have a solid project and you can present yourselves, professionally and respectfully, and you're reaching out and you want to make a student film, you probably really have doors open to you very nicely if you can show that you're sincere in your efforts and have a well thought through project.
In becoming an independent filmmaker, I believe that you first need to become a screenwriter first. Not everyone has to. I think that it's a wonderful thing to learn how to do that first, because all you're going to do, of course, is educate yourself more on story and structure and characters and character arcs and timing. In feature-length films, you're dealing with about maybe anywhere from 90 pages to 100 pages of screenplay format. The beauty of short film, of course, it can be anywhere from 1 minute to, it can be a minute to 45 minutes. For film festivals, though, I'll tell you straight up, though, after years of being on the film festival route or circuit, there's a sort of a general unwritten truism that your film should be around 10 minutes to 12 minutes, because they like to schedule short films into 15-minute blocks to fill an hour. Now, granted, if your film is 22, 23 minutes long and it's absolutely brilliant, you're going to get into film festivals. It's going to play.
But you know what? Just because we think it's brilliant doesn't mean the film festivals think it's brilliant. So if there's any inclination for I can break that 14-minute rule because mine is so good, that's probably not the case. So stick with the 12 to 14 minutes.
And I keep coming back to screenwriting every time I start this up again, because it's a matter of developing tough skin, you guys. Your skin's not going to be that tough when you start out. Mine wasn't. I remember writing my first screenplay, and I gave it to an older friend of my father's, and he read it, wrote some notes back on it, and some of those notes and suggestions that he said, it hurt a little bit, but I tell you guys, that goes away quickly, and you want it to go away quickly. I don't want to be. I've said this a million times. I don't want to be patted on my back for what I write or for what I make. My most valuable friends are my wife and 4 of my colleagues at work and 2 others in Los Angeles that I work with. They're brutal with me. They give me props when they see good moments of either dialogue or visuals, but man, they call me out on it. And you know what though? At the same time, guys, be wary of this. Not all the suggestions and feedback that you get are valid. You can reject them if you want to, and I have. Our single most successful film that we've done so far is called Birthday. I'm a veteran. It's about a veteran, and we've played in 155 film festivals. It's played all over the world, and we qualified for the Academy Award for it. Anyway, a wonderful blessing in our lives, but one of my most trusted colleagues, who I gave the original screenplay to, here's his email back to me after he read it. I seriously suggest that you discontinue this course of action immediately. He did not dig what I wrote. He just wasn't feeling it, thought it was over the top and corny and everything like that. And this guy in particular has been a wonderful source to me, because I've been able to glean a couple things that he has said to me and utilize them in my filmmaking process. But a few other things I just disregard. He's wrong about it. And that's part of the process too, is taking a stand on, no, I believe in this, I believe in what I've written, and I am going to film this part of it.
Yep. One of the things that I think is really important, especially as beginning filmmakers, as student filmmakers, anytime we start some new endeavor, the beginning's going to be garbage. We just know that. And we have to get the bad ones out of the way. And so just go ahead, just write it. Don't do writing paralysis, waiting for this brilliant film to come through, or you haven't learned enough about screenplay writing yet. I mean, you're going to get there. You're still so early in the process for this. Of course, you're not going to have all the learning under your belt yet. So the most important thing is just get the writing going and just get the flow and the practice of that that going on. Don't be afraid to have it be, bad, crummy, whatever. The beginning ones are always, rough. And so with time, that skill's going to come. But as Chris said, if you do have someone that is kind of a trusted reader, advisor, do take a moment and listen to what they say. My motto that I use with Chris is lots of love, no mercy. So, I'll put notes in the margins of the scripts on the spots that I love, or the spots that made me tear up or smile or whatever that might be. But on other parts, I'm not doing any service if I think, oh, this part's really bad or really cheesy, but I'll just let it go because I don't want to hurt his feelings. And then he goes and films that and he shows it to the world. I didn't do him any favors that he now has a not as strong script that has now been filmed and shown. Whereas if we'd had that discussion a year ago in the living room when we were putting the script together, it's going to make the whole film stronger. It's going to make the whole project stronger. So even though it can bite a little bit to have that feedback at the script level, that's when you want to get it, because it's going to make your film better. So just do that, practice that skill of not taking it personally and just looking at it objectively, like, oh, okay, this is about the story, this isn't about me, and let's just, take it up to the next level there.
And again, that moment in your life when it doesn't hurt anymore at all to get feedback, constructive criticism. Again, it might take a while. It might only take a few months. It might take a few years, but it does happen. I absolutely cannot remember the last time I got feedback on a screenplay or anything like that where I felt hurt or offended by. No, because I always want it to be better. It's never about us. It's only about that, what's on the screen. I think a lot of people understandably get caught up in the romanticism of making a film instead of actually telling a story. Because to me, I hold film as art. Oh, of course there's commerce, there's commercialism, there's Star Wars, there's big budget film. But to me, it's so sacred to me as an art form, and I take it very seriously. And so it does, you will get better at taking criticism. And
I just want to say that we're spending a little bit of time here talking about the importance of story and script, and that's not the flashy part. That's not the fun part of being on set and yelling action and doing the editing and seeing the final product. But story is so much the foundation of everything that's going to come. So what we've seen sometimes in the industry, especially with newer filmmakers, is the tendency to maybe slap something down on paper and then get to the fun stuff. Let's go film this. Don't film a badly written script that hasn't had several set of revisions. Take the time to do that. So that's why we're taking the time here to talk about it, because it's so important. It's absolutely the foundation for what you're going to take the time and money to film.
By the way, I wanted to interject here real quick. Some of you, did any of you guys get those cards? Those cards as you came in? The reason we handed those out is because our website and our our website and our email address is on there. And it's on there because we wanted to give that to you guys, because when you're first starting out, you like to be able to answer or have some questions answered for you. And there's no way Heather and I are going to cover everything involved in independent film here in the 50 minutes or so that we have with you guys. So that's just our way of saying, if you have additional questions, or we have a packet that we have accumulated over the 20 years of our filmmaking, a packet of information of stuff that we have written down year after year, tips and tricks of the trade, from directing, casting, props, everything, film festivals, all that. Feel free to email me or Heather. Hey, saw you guys at Media Day. Could I have that packet that you guys were talking about? Happy to zip it off to you in an email. Tons of information on there, guys. Please feel free to take advantage of it, and we're happy to send it out to you. Heather's going to talk a little bit about producing.
Got it. So Chris will cover more camera things than that. So with producing, like I said, that's the wedding planning. That's the taking care of all of the details. When Chris starts some of his more complicated stories, he'll have a notebook this thick of details. Our living room gets covered with Excel spreadsheets that are, highlighted in different colors of, here's when we're having the lunch breaks, here's when we're at this location, here's who's in which car, here's which equipment is coming in, here's where the extras are coming in. It is just this massive plan that our house turns into a war room of costumes hanging up in the dining room and, the walls taken over on Excel spreadsheets for all the planning that's necessary. So do be prepared that along with all the very fun stuff of doing the filming, you're going to have a lot of this detail-oriented work. And Chris can talk more about the details of his technical process of putting those details together. Once you're on set, though, there's a little bit, sometimes we see in the industry, people get a little bit snooty. I'm the director, don't talk to me. And come on, guys, it's indie film. Like, it's not brain surgery. So,
we're all a bunch of nobodies trying to have fun with film.
Yeah, our philosophy is we're throwing a film, who wants to come play? There are no director's chairs on our sets. That's something that we've joked about, and we actually cringe a little bit when we see director's chairs on other sets. Like, it's just pretentious. You don't be the one who's like, I'm the director. No, you're just somebody there who's collecting other like-minded people who want to have fun, and you're coming together to do this really awesome creative thing. And I tell you, we have full-time jobs. We've got a couple of kids. This is what we do for fun on the side. And so it's not like there's, huge amounts of money that goes towards this. So we don't pay people. We say, like, hey, we're going to do this script. Who wants to come join us? So by virtue of the fact that they're coming and volunteering their time, which is probably how your experiences will be as well as you're getting started on your filmmaking, everyone's just there for the fun of it. Treat them well, treat them kindly, give them good food. If you can't pay people, you feed people. So when they show up, make sure that you have, orange juice and donuts in the morning. Make sure you've got some lunch in the afternoon. Even if it's Subway $5 footlongs, that's fine. Just make sure they have some food. Make sure that there's snacks along the way. And we've got the full spread. It's from, healthy string cheeses over to all the chocolate. So it's one of those things that as you are having people show up and help you on these things, make sure you're showing your appreciation. And so parents, this is something where you can help, that if your students are doing some sort of a project, that you're just making sure that the kids are having a well-supported experience as they're going through this, that the parents are well communicated with, and so that everybody's feeling very included on set.
Bravery is a huge thing when you're starting out, because again, as I mentioned earlier, it's all about getting favors and asking favors. Because, example, Heather and I own nothing. We don't have any cameras. We don't have lights. We don't have anything. We borrow. Everyone has a friend or a friend of a friend who has something. And that's how we've made our films for the last 20 years. We just put the word out. This is a film that we want to do, whether it's a Facebook announcement or just word of mouth. And that's how we get the word out. And that's how you guys are going to have to do this. And that's just be brave and ask for those favors. And enthusiasm is infectious, you guys. If you are super excited, guys, I have this story, people are going to respond to that. People want to see you fulfill your dreams. And again, that is just contagious, and people love that. They want to hear your excitement about it. Heck yeah, I want to help you make your film. Are you kidding? What can I get for you? Can you want my living room? Do you want to, you know what? I have a location for you. That kind of a thing. It's a wonderful film community that every city has. And so it's just a matter of having the chutzpah and having the drive and the determination and the passion. Once you have a screenplay or a script idea, man, that's going to serve you well. Just that bit of bravery and getting yourself out there. Yeah, good call here.
I think, from what I can see on the timing, we're about midway through. We want to stop at this point and see what kind of questions you have so we can know how to best use our time that we still have here today. So any kind of questions about any aspect of indie filmmaking?
Yeah. Right there, right here in front of me yeah.
How do we get our actors? When we first started doing this, it was before the internet was a big thing, if you can believe that. So for the parents, we would put, if you remember back to this, we would put an ad out there were some magazines where you could put out we're looking for an actor of this kind of, age, and this is the role. And people actually mailed us their photos. So they'd mail us their headshot. And for our first film, we had 800 headshots piled up on our living room table, and we had to go through those envelopes and open every one and read every resume. But now, with the digital age,
we have the interweb. So yeah, with us, we are big, firm believers in casting local locally first. There are plenty of good actors. I don't care what town you live in. We always cast locally first, and if we don't get what we need for a certain character, then we'll do like a nationwide search. We'll advertise through something called Backstage East or Backstage West. Okay, thank you for bringing. I birdwalk sometimes, so I'll come back. Yeah, but locally here, whether it's an announcement on Facebook for us old folks, or an announcement on Instagram for the younger generation, or word of mouth, or film groups. And now there's a film group called CFAA. Remember that, or feel free to hit us up through email and ask us about that again. There are film groups here, you guys. We are happy to share with you. It's great to go to their meetings. You will never have to search for resources really again. People are there of all kinds who do sound, lighting, cameras, everything. So for casting, we put our word out to Backstage West, but here locally, we do it through Sally Forcier Casting. We do it through Cast Images. But mostly, gosh, I'd say Facebook has been a dear friend to us.
We even found one of our lead actresses on Craigslist.
In Craigslist. So funny a story. Great story there.
And it's one of those that sometimes there's a tendency to think like, oh, somebody has to be an established actor to do a good job. This gal that we found on Craigslist, her headshot that she sent in was her in her backyard. She had a white sheet hanging behind her and had a friend snap a picture of her.
That was her headshot.
That was her headshot, and she had almost no experience. And she came into the audition, held in our living room. This is nothing fancy with independent film. This is like our, daughter's playing in the other room. We have the, top folks that we had kind of screened from their headshots come into our living room and do the audition. She blew us away. And so it really isn't, you can't always tell what's on paper based on someone's background. Have them come in for the audition. Or if you're doing a school project or something, see if, if there's a media group in your school, or if there's an announcement section in your school, or see if you can, put up some flyers around your school or something like that, or if there's other youth organizations you're part of. Then you can put the word out like, hey, I'm going to do this indie film and I need 5 people.
We usually, Kelly Nixon is her name, who we cast in Rachel. That was a perfect example. Most of the time when we audition, we will have about 2 or 3, complete unknowns with like no resume to their credits at all. We like to do that for the chance you just never know factor. And Kelly was a perfect example of that. She had done like a play, one community play in her early 20s. That's it. So I remember when she came through the door and looked at her photos she had sent and like, oh, okay, this is when. Anyway, again, blew us away. So you never know what kind of talent you're going to have out there.
And then she ended up getting a Best Actress award in a high-end New York film festival.
Yeah, just amazing. So there is talent to be gotten here locally, and that's how we get it.
I know you had a question there in the blue shirt. Great question. Is the difference between a producer and a director, and when are they the same person? When are they different?
Lots of the times the producer director is going to be a situation like me. I'm always a producer and a director with every film that I do because we do independent films. When you do independent films, you're just doing everything kind of yourself. And I hate to say that because there's a team of friends and people that you are doing this project with. So as I'm producing, when we're about to do a film, we are doing most of, if not all of the organizing aspects of making the film, making all the phone calls for locations, props, actors, everything like that, all of the organizing of it, that's producing. I have to do it. We have to do it. Because again, this is independent filmmaking. We don't have much money at all to make those films. And then because I love directing actors, I love working with actors and getting certain performances from them. To me, that's the most wonderful and fun part about it. Anyway, that's why one is also a producer and a director at the same time.
What we find is really valuable is prior to filming, Chris fully has his producer hat on. He's getting everything organized. And I kind of keep the house running while he's deep in production. So that's the way that for the two of us, it works out well. Once we get on set, though, it's really, really helpful if he can just be the director, because in that way he can completely focus on getting the performances from the actors that he's looking for, or working with the director of photography to make sure that he's getting the shots that he's looking for. And in that case, I'll step in and have more of the producer role on set. So I'm the one who's watching for when is it time to take a meal break. Oh, hey, the owner of this location is getting a little antsy because we're running over time. So let me go over and talk to the owner and say, hey, is it okay if we have 30 more minutes? We have volunteer groups that'll help us come in. We had one film that we reenacted the 1860s, and so we had over 100 volunteers in Civil War clothing. They're on horses. It's 100 degrees outside, and so I'm over there like trying to, do a little thing of like, hey, it's okay that it's 1,000,000 degrees and you're in wool suits and it's hot and we're on horses, but we're all having fun, right? So it's, like having somebody else to be able to go over there and kind of keep everything running smoothly on set so that Chris can just focus on being the director. And so if you can, when you're making your films, if you can have somebody come along and kind of be like the person to help take care of things and organize things, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a friend or another schoolmate. But if you can have somebody to kind of take over that responsibility for all the little stuff, then you can just focus on actually being the director and getting the performances and making, whatever's going to show up on camera. You can focus on that. And we've noticed that the films turn out much better when Chris is able to just focus straight as the director, not having to be the producer on set at the same time.
Getting back to, young lady, your question about getting actors and where do you get them from. Again, if you're just doing fun films just for yourself and you're stretching your wings and you're just learning how to do it all, great. Use your friends. The more the merrier kind of thing. Awesome. But in terms of serious filmmaking, where you're interested in submitting to film festivals, yes, absolutely. Go to the references or the resources that we mentioned earlier, as well as theater. Your theater groups, whether they're at your school or whether the community theaters, that's where you get great acting talent from, and that's where we've gotten them from. I've heard some silly, really ignorant comments in the past of, oh, geez, you don't want theater actors in your films because they're so big and grand and grandiose and therefore unrealistic. That's absolute ridiculousness. It's up to you as a director. We understand that. You do need to be bigger on stage, but it's up to you as a director. It's your responsibility to be able to, so to speak, bring them down and stretch their legs, because what theater people have as a wonderful asset, they have the ability to memorize a lot of dialogue or a monologue. They're professionals at memorizing a lot of your script. So one thing I do not ever recommend doing is casting your friends, again, in a film that you're looking to get into film festivals. Make it a clean slate, you guys. If you're doing a serious film, this is going to be my first independent film. Dude, put the casting notice out. See what talent you have out there. Because you're going to get surprises. You're going to get people, you're like, oh my gosh, the character that I thought I had in my head is completely different than what this person is doing, but I like what they're doing better. Does that make sense? We've gotten a lot of wonderful surprises by people by casting. And just, don't cast your friends. It's always a bad idea. And please, don't cast yourself as the lead. Here's an asterisk to that. If you're an actor, actress, and you love filmmaking, and you want to make your own film, absolutely go for it. That's the exception to the rule. Make your own film so that you can portray your talents.
Yeah. If you're doing it for the joy of it, like I just want the experience of, directing myself in this role. I love this story. I really want to act in this story. I want to portray this. Absolutely, cast yourself and have fun with it. But know that if you're going for the film festival route, like maybe as you get a little older or you're looking for student film festivals, typically we have not seen that work out well in films. People will cast themselves. It's hard to direct yourself. people typically won't give candid feedback, and so then maybe there's some performances that aren't so strong happening on there. So if you're doing it for the joy of it, absolutely. If you're doing it so that you can have stellar acting and get it out into film festivals, it's maybe not the best route.
Another question?
Here in the gray shirt, and then we'll get around over here too.
Yeah, we'll get to you in a second.
Where do you present the films that you make?
Oh, great question. Where do we present the films that we make? Anywhere we can. So there's film festivals all around the country, all around the world, and they can be anything from very small film festivals where they kind of just play in one day, one afternoon, to huge festivals in New York that last 10 days.
They're all over the world. There's about over 6,000 film festivals around the world. Here's a website that you're going to use as a filmmaker, filmfreeway.com. Anybody heard of Without a Box? An amazing service popped up, I don't know, 15 years ago called Without a Box. Instead of filmmakers having to contact each individual film festival, go through the paperwork process, send your film in, someone had the brilliant idea of, I'm going to make a website. Better? Okay. I'm going to make a website and have all of these film festivals contact me. Therefore, we can have a portal of all the film festivals. That way, for instance, our next film, whatever it's called, we tap into the website. We fill out the information. We upload our film onto it. It's secured. It's password protected, all that. Now, we don't have to deal with all the film festivals that we're submitting to. We just go into that website and we shop, essentially, which film festivals do we think might want to play our film, our type of film. Anyway, filmfreeway.com, that's how you submit your films. It's an amazing resource. Yeah.
Yes, in the... The question is, can we make money?
Still trying to figure that out.
The question is, can you make money doing this? Pretty much not. It's for the love of the game. There's always going to be that one lottery winner who makes money off of their indie film, but generally speaking, it's because people love being creative, and some people like to golf, some people like to scuba dive, some people like to make films, right? So it's really just more of a passion, in life, something to do, and it's a way to, inspire other people, have people come together in community. I love our time on film set because we get the neatest people together because everyone's there for the love of the game. They love being a cinematographer. They love being a hairstylist for film. They love being an actor. And so you get all these people together doing what they love, and they're just excited and uplifted to be there. So it's a really, it's one of those things that's very emotionally rich, but not financially.
That is the big difference between independent filmmaking and larger studio filmmaking. We don't know anyone in all of our years who actually works as an independent filmmaker full-time. Again, we have full-time jobs and 2 kids. Independent filmmaking is what we do as a cool, fun little hobby that we do. But it's just not practical. The first film that we ever did was a feature film, as Heather said, just out of pure naivete. I only ever thought on terms of feature filmmaking, which is your, again, 2-hour-long film. So that's one we did first. I do not recommend ever doing that, okay? Do short films first.
Don't start with that.
Don't start with that. Do short films first. Learn how to get your camera angles, your camera lighting, and everything like that. You'll get better and better with your short films. That way, when you get to the feature-length, longer film that you want to do, man, you're gonna be so much better as a result. I so wish we had done our feature film later. It would have. We're very proud of what we created with that very first film. There's a lot of cringeworthy moments in that film too, because we were beginners. But we wish we would have made that later on. It would have been so much better as a result in every area: lighting, sound, acting, production values, all that.
All right, see a hand back here? Well, sometimes I think that people get inspired to do things when they're told that they can't. So, if you have anyone telling you, you can't make indie films, then, pick up your iPhone and shoot a little film and show them that you can.
Tom Cruise is also one of the biggest names in the entire film industry, and he'll often just attach his name only to a film so that money can be raised easier. When money people hear, wait a minute, who did you say is it? is working on this film? Tom Cruise. Really? Okay, yeah, then they're much more likely to give you money for that. So he's not really a producer. He's just putting his name on the film as an executive producer. If some of you are ever wondering, you hear the term executive producer, most of the time, they may help. They may make phone calls and help organizing, but most of the time, what people mean by that is they're the money. They're supplying the money to help finance the film. In the yellow shirt over?
We'll come back to you here.
In the yellow.
Can we put together films to make a movie? Well, most of the time, the words film and movie are kind of used interchangeably. It's just people who decide whatever they want to call it. Can you share a little bit more about your question? Yeah, so typically you're going to choose between making either like a short one at 10, 15 minutes or making a full feature-length one. There might be times like if you go to a film festival, they'll play a whole collection of short films and they won't put them all together, but they will have a theme running on them. So maybe here's 2 hours of romance films and here's 2 hours of action films. So then when someone's going to a film festival to watch that, they're kind of getting films all of the same feel.
Did that answer your question? Okay.
And then there was, let's see, there was one back here that I said we were coming back to.
In
Oh,
front?
wait, no, I had somebody.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, sorry, okay, there we are, go ahead. Oh, the best tips to make a good storyboard and script.
I'm a big fan of storyboarding your
Great
screenplay.
question.
Great question. When you guys write a screenplay, again, as I mentioned before, once it gets written, you are going to go through it line by line and section it out for what you need for costumes, props, locations, all of that. But everybody know what storyboarding is? Hands, storyboarding? For those who don't know what storyboarding is, it's when you go through your script and you literally make out sort of little blocked cartoon representations of what's happening sequentially in your film. And it's a great idea to always do. Not everyone does it. I like to do it for two reasons. One, I like to be able to just with my own self, be able to look at my storyboard and visually remind myself, oh, that's right. I want to film this or that from this angle, maybe a high angle, low angle. It's a very valuable to be able to draw storyboards and show your director of photography. That's the person who is filming your film. If I'm the director, I'll be able to open my book up, show the storyboards to my director of photography and go, this is what I'm looking for. This is how close I want their face, that kind of a thing. That way it takes the guessing game out. So you and your director of photography aren't sitting there trying to miscommunicating going, hold on, Chris, what are you saying? Where do you want the camera for this? You can just show them the storyboard. Makes sense.
And the greatest tip, I think, for doing that is be willing to spend the time early, not on set. Don't wait till you're on set to think, do I want this to be a close-up or a wide shot? Because you're wasting everybody's time, and then you're probably going to make like some fast decisions that maybe aren't the most thought-through decisions, because now all of a sudden you've got half an hour till sunset, you've got to get all these shots in the can, and it's just not good decision-making at that point. So that's when you do that at home, or with your, if you have a creative team or something, wherever you are, you do that thinking in advance, and so that you know shot by shot by shot, and you take the time to draw it out. It can be stick figures, that's fine, but you take the time to figure out, do I want all 3 people in the shot? Do I want a close-up on this? Do I want a scenery shot? Do I cut away to some B-roll? What does this look like? So you know in your mind's eye, like you can read the comic book of your movie before you ever step foot on set.
And she wasn't kidding. It can be just stick figures. Mm-hmm. It can be that basic. It's fine. You're just trying to convey what you're trying to see in the frame. You right here in front? Yeah. What editing software or program do we recommend? You know what? Whether it's for screenwriting, it's called Final Draft. There's Movie Maker, there's Movie Magic, there's Final Draft. I've been using Final Draft all my life, so I'm still using with it. It is an amazing screenwriting software. You just press return and it automatically formats things for you. It is brilliant. So much more time saving than trying to write it on a regular Word document where you're having to constantly reformat. Final Draft, I love it. editing software. Some people have been doing Final Cut. Some people use Final Cut. And I used that for 3 years, and I think 3 of our films. I have been a Adobe Premiere guy, though, for many years, so I love the whole Premiere suite. It's got After Effects in it, and, well, everything. And so I love Adobe Premiere. Wonderful. Yeah, way up top.
Can you make independent films on YouTube?
Oh, can you post indie films on YouTube? Sure can. Go for it.
Definitely post wherever you want. Don't be secretive. At this stage in your game, you guys, where you're first learning out, don't hide your screenplays. You know, I got a great idea here, but I don't want to tell you about it. It's a great idea. It's a secret. Oh, that's baloney. Share it with everybody. Get their feedback. And then once you make your film, put it on YouTube. Put it on Vimeo. Put it for everyone to see. Way up there with the camera.
Can you make a good movie without going to film school?
Question is, can you make a good movie without going to film school? Absolutely. Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino never went to film school.
My-
You absolutely do not need to go. Here's what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, Chris went to film school because he had to go to college for something, and that was the thing that was most interesting. But I think, I mean, I've seen him read so many books. Just, you know, I think he's read every book that there is about on screenplay writing, or screenwriting and filmmaking. So you definitely don't need to go to film school, but you do need to educate yourself. So whether that be online courses or books or something like that, do get a solid understanding of like what people who are really masterful in this field do. So learn from them. Don't just wing it out of your own brain. I mean, wing it when you're just getting started and having fun. But if you really want to get good at this, do absolutely learn. But film school is in no way a requirement.
I never made one connection in film school that helped me make a film. I had great conversations in film school with my fellow students and with the professors there, but not once did I ever make a connection with any of them. And then we all got together and made a film. That happened later. Man, I lived at Barnes & Noble or any of the bookstores or libraries. I got, like Heather said, every book imaginable, and that's when you're truly on fire and on passion, and when you know you love it, you just spend every waking hour thinking about it.
Oh.
Like a screenwriting book?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here's where, if you email us, I'll have a list for you. John Truby, Sid, S-Y-D, Sid Field is his name. He's known as the guru, the god of screenwriting. You buy any book from Sid Field, and you are home free.
When is it appropriate to enter film festivals, and how do we go about? As far as like when, I'd say whenever you want to. It does cost money to enter film festivals, so you do have to make sure that you've got budget or family is supporting you on the budget to submit those. But I think, make sure that you're doing a little bit of research on it. When you're doing your first films, don't submit them to like Sundance, right? It's just, you're not gonna get in. So start off with smaller film festivals or ones that are specifically for students. Start off with the local ones, because local film festivals are going to be more likely to show maybe some student talent than trying to send it off into some of the big ones. So definitely choose your audience. Don't maybe like overshoot, don't shoot for the stars on which festivals you're submitting to in the beginning. Work your way up. So just do a little research. And again, as Chris said, there's 6,000. So there's going to be plenty for you to submit to. But as far as the actual process of it, it's uploading it to Film Freeway.
Yes.
To Film Freeway, and then submitting from there.
Like Heather said, there's tons of film festivals, and there's lots of film festivals here locally, and film festivals love student filmmakers. They eat that up. We got 5 minutes? Really? Already?
Okay. Here in the hoodie. Or email chris@watermarkfilms.net. And it's on the cards too if you need
We
it.
also have some extra cards up here. For whoever didn't get one, we can give you that card as well. Right here in the blue shirt, sir. I started writing back in 1995. We started making films in 2003. Yeah.
So when there's like a special situation, what do you do to prepare for that?
What do you mean by a special situation?
Like if there's like a breaking news that they're recording live and you have to do
Oh, I see. For like the television work. You know what? I work at KCRA3 News, but I don't work in the news gathering department. I don't go out with the reporters or the news anchors. I make all the commercials. The commercials that say, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, watch KCRA3 for news, weather, traffic. You ever seen those commercials? So that's what I do.
Here in the gray?
How many film festivals have you entered?
The question is, how many film festivals have we entered?
We have gotten into, probably, as you may have seen on our demo reel there, we've gotten into about 200, almost 230 film festivals, but we've probably applied to 600. And that is a lot of money. Because again, Heather mentioned, film festival submissions can be anywhere from, $15 to submit to $100 to submit. So it does cost a lot of money to do that. We're not wealthy people, which is why from GoFundMe to Kickstarter, we put the word out. We try to get, some financial help to do that. And that is definitely part of it.
Yeah, and part of, sometimes there's an idea that films are going to get into all these film festivals. They're not. I mean, sometimes films will maybe get into just one or two, and that's fine. And when you're just starting, you're just going to maybe get into a local one, and you get into a student film festival, and that's great. You're just starting to get it out there. I mean, if a film hits 20 festivals, it's doing really, really well. And so it's just so you kind of have an expectation of what the numbers are, that if you go apply to 50 and you get into just a couple, you're doing fine.
When you're first starting out, you guys, your first films aren't going to be all that great. They're going to be so fun to have made, but they aren't going to be that great. They're not going to be that sophisticated. You will only get more sophisticated as a storyteller and as a filmmaker as you keep making more films. I want to go ahead with you, a young lady. Yeah.
I was going to ask, how do you get your actors to exactly portray what you want them to?
Oh, great question. How do we get the actors to portray what we want them to? Chris is an amazing director, so I know that we just have a minute here to wrap up.
I definitely like to rehearse. Some filmmakers don't want to rehearse or don't like to rehearse. I absolutely, positively rehearse with them. We don't need any secrets once everybody comes on set and time is of the essence and you got to rock and roll. No, absolutely rehearsal beforehand to get out all the bugs and to also get a flow and a chemistry going with your actors, if that makes sense.
The other thing that I've seen Chris do a lot here, and then we'll have time for like one more question, is that we know how we want that scene to play out. And if that actor, if we know they're capable of it, but they're not quite bringing it, they're like at an 8, but we want that 10, he pushes them. Not in a jerk way, not in a like, you're not doing this. You never, ever, ever shame somebody on set. Or I mean, like, ever. Anywhere in life, but like especially not on a film set. But Chris will just go up and have like a nice little one-on-one quiet conversation of like, I know, like, in rehearsal, I saw you go so deep on this. Let's just try this again. Take a moment if you need to. Get yourself in the right headspace, and then let's try it again. So we're really about holding the vision of what that actor can do, and like giving them the honor of the ability to give that performance.
And all actors want that. They want a director who knows exactly what he or she wants. They want to give you that performance. I promised you here in the burgundy shirt.
That'll be our last question. Sorry, but we are available after if you have any questions.
Best places to show an independent film are film festivals.
Sorry, honey, did you say show or shoot? Oh, to shoot them? We have shot them. We've shot indie films in living rooms, in backyards, in places all around
in showers,
town.
in backyard, yeah, everywhere.
Anywhere your story calls for a film, you can shoot it there.
But one little note on that, though, it is great if you have an idea of like where you would like to shoot it. So again, someone is going to know someone who has a friend who knows how to, get a police station or a fire station. I'd like to be able to shoot there. So just ask people. That's part of being a filmmaker, asking for favors. What time do we got here?
I think we're over time here.
Okay. You guys, we can answer questions out there in the foyer.
Yep. Thank you for showing up here today. Thank you for the questions. We're happy to talk to anyone.
Thank you, guys.